You know, I remember 10, 15 years ago now, trying to get people, not on YouTube, but just, you know, people in my life, trying to get them to pay attention to what was going on with the globalist New World Order agenda. You know, I'd point out things like Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. I would send them links to that data, and I'd show them in their own words, like, you know, their plan for absolute global domination, because that's what this whole thing that we're feeling, this whole experiment that Biden is putting us through and the Democrats are putting us through right now, plays right into the hands of Agenda 21, 2030. And if you don't know, I mean, you're late to the game. You need to go do a whole bunch of research on this. It's probably going to blow your mind for 3 or 4 days straight if you actually go and read what these people have written down on their own websites and what their stated mission statements are. It's out in the open for everyone to see who has eyes to see and ears to hear. Why are they doing this? Why are they so brazen with their plans for global domination? Because they realize that the vast, overwhelming majority of people are so asleep that they'll never see it coming. They'll never see it coming. And I remember 10, 15 years ago trying to wake people up, and they would look at me like I was crazy, like I needed to go get a tinfoil hat and put it on. Or, you know, they would flat out sometimes call me a conspiracy theorist and things like that. You know, now all of those things are coming to fruition. Not to say that I was some grand predictor. You know, I was following in the footsteps of a lot of other great people. Bill Cooper, William Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse. It had some powerful information inside of that book back in the 90s. So for a long time, I've been, I guess we'll call it awake, you know, or red-pilled, if you want to call it the new term for that, red-pilled. You know, I've been in this game for a long time. I've been watching this stuff deteriorate, our way of life, you know, all the way down to the basic things that make America great, like the family unit. They want to destroy all of that. And at the end of the day, this globalist UN Agenda 21, 2030 agenda and the Great Reset and Build Back Better are just disguises, code words for communism. They have based this all upon a communist model. They will tell you at the end, if you read through all the fine print, that they believe that the Chinese model is the most logical one to use, because you can have absolute control over your population if you have the Chinese model. They don't like the American model. They don't like individualism or liberty. Those things, that is basically a curse word to the New World Order. They don't like that stuff. And I was talking to my wife about this last night, is that if it wasn't for the, I don't know, 20 or 30% of Americans that still remember liberty and freedom in its true form, in its true sense, then there would be no hope for stopping this thing. But there is. This is the big hiccup in the globalist agenda and the whole communist takeover. The 49 goals that the communists had put out in, I believe, 1956, stated goals that the communists had for America to destroy America from within. Those goals have all been achieved, except for like maybe a couple, 2 or 3. But one of the big ones is they haven't been able to disarm us. Of course, you're seeing here in recent news articles and news stories that have been coming out in the past week or two, they're all after our guns now. Matthew McConaughey was on today. He came as a guest of the White House. He's calling for bans and different things like that. And somehow they're selling it in the idea that they're selling it to the American people as if this is good for the Second Amendment. This is protecting their Second Amendment. But no, that is not true. It couldn't be further from the truth. The Founding Fathers wanted us to have the type of armament and firepower to where if we got a tyrannical government, out of control government in power, the people would be able to unite, join together, and overthrow that tyrant, right? That was the whole stated purpose of all of that stuff. You can read it in the Federalist Papers. You can read it in the Founding Fathers' writings before the Revolutionary War. And then, of course, what kicked it off? The British trying to come and take the guns, seize the guns. They halted the import of guns first as a first step, and then the second step they were trying to confiscate the guns. And the Founding Fathers, you know, they launched a revolution because of that, as a result of that. So, am I calling for revolution? No, I'm not. I'm just saying that, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's stacking up here in the country that I don't believe the Founding Fathers would be tolerating at this point. And I know there are a lot of people that are, you know, patriot people out there that want to restore the United States to our former glory. And I don't know if that's ever even possible anymore. There are so many people now that have been corrupted by the school system over generation after generation and fed this propaganda BS that, you know, that humans are killing the climate. It's not about climate change. It's not about global warming. It's about control. It's not about anything other than, you can take the whole gun control argument and lump it in there along with that, you know. So what is gun control about? It's about control. It's about controlling people that are individualists, that believe we've already passed some sort of a threshold of tyranny here in our country. As a result of that, this continuing communist grip that Biden has put on the United States, we're seeing immediate reactions. I mean, you know, every action has an opposite and equal reaction, right? So when Biden does stuff, when he first comes into office, that cuts off our oil supply, cuts off our oil companies' ability to go drill and explore new wells. They've done tons and tons of things to shut off the pipeline, which means a lot more of that oil has to be transported via truck or train or rail. And the latest one I heard is now the DEF fluid is hard to come by, and they're actually limiting how much they can transport across the country on rail. So guys, this is a design collapse. Go fill your tank up. They claim by the end of the week, the national average is going to be $5 a gallon. You know, last weekend was my big anniversary. 27 years I've been married to my wife, and wonderful years, wouldn't change a thing, just excellent. And as we were celebrating and stuff, we tried to take a couple of days off from the news cycle and all that. Well, wouldn't you know it, knowing my luck, on the weekend, I had a pipe burst in the floor. I've got a concrete floor house, and one of the copper lines probably developed a pinhole inside of it. So I had to go and buy a whole bunch of fittings and plumbing parts. And let me tell you what, just that alone, those prices have more than doubled. I mean, for the little copper and brass fittings and different things that I needed to repair my plumbing, and the tubing, I had to end up running the line overhead. The tubing for that was quite a bit more money. Every single thing all the way across the economy has exploded in price. If it was only 30% on some items, I'd be really surprised. But the vast majority of things in the last 2 years have more than doubled in price. That means 100% increase. So they can tell us all the lies they want about how this inflation is transient or whatever they called it, and it's not going to be around for very long. Now Janet Yellen is backing off of that and saying, oh, well, we might have said the wrong thing there. It's actually way worse than we thought, and this is catastrophic for the U.S. So she didn't go that far, but she said it is uncontrollable inflation. So we're in big trouble, guys. Big, big trouble. And the reason they're doing all of this stuff is they have to break the U.S. dollar. If they break the U.S. dollar and bide their time, and, you know, they've still got, you know, 7.5, 8 years before 2030. So there's a long time ahead of us. A lot of Orwellian things are going to happen between now and then. But Biden is doing exactly what the globalists want. And that was the conclusion I came to when I was talking to my wife the other day. I think that Biden is actually the ultimate perfect Manchurian candidate, because the people that are pulling his strings, and it's not Biden. We shouldn't be really blaming only Biden. It's just an easy way to say the cabal that has taken over the United States government. Vast sections, even on the Republican side, these rhinos like Lindsey Graham calling for gun control and calling for, you know, getting rid of ARs, agreeing with everything Biden said. I mean, if that guy has a job after this next election, the problem is way worse than I thought. So we still do have control. We have to go and vote. I know it seems futile, but we have to. We have to vote and at least make it hard for these people to trick the system. So I can't say too much about that, or else I'll get in trouble. I got a mosquito biting me on the back. I'll get in trouble on YouTube. You're not allowed to question the results of the 2020 election. All other elections, including 2016, are just fine, though. So double standards are everywhere. Rules for thee, not for me, is being applied here in the United States of America. That is a direct violation of the principles of our country. Our founding principles are supposed to be, you know, Lady Liberty's blind. Justice is equal for everyone, regardless of skin color, political class, sex, any of that stuff. Justice is supposed to be blind to that sort of stuff, and equal protection under the law, which Merrick Garland swore he would do, but that's not exactly happening here in the United States. There is no equal protection anymore. And when they say things like that, what they mean is, you've had too much freedom for too long. It's time we take some away from you. Or too much wealth. It's time for us to take that away from you. Redistribute that wealth. Redistribute. I can't even hardly say it because it's such a screwed up word. It shouldn't even be uttered out of the mouth of any Americans, but redistribution of wealth. It's complete bullshit. No, you didn't earn that money. You have no right to that money. If I earned it, it's mine. So anyways, back into the topic. You know, I was afraid of this. I knew I was going to get a little ranty on this video because, I mean, this shit is catastrophic to the country. You know, I've got a daughter. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for her, but it doesn't look good. I'm not even sure what the future holds for my wife and myself, even though we've been prepping for years and stocking up for this sort of thing. And we've already, you know, kind of adjusted our minds and our mentality to this reality. But so many people are so stuck in you know, they're drunk on comfort, or they're just stuck in the system, the matrix. A great analogy for what we're going through. There are so many people that are just stuck in the matrix. They prefer to be drunk on comfort. They prefer to eat a fake steak. Literally, people are talking about right now making, you know, man-made meats to replace our meats. Why? Because cows fart too much, they say. Oh, there was a government study. You know, they spent billions of our taxpayer dollars to study cow farts in the environment. Things are just going off the cliff here in the country. I mean, you can't help but notice it. If you are a consumer of any product, you're going to be noticing this stuff. So on one hand, it's tragic and sad that so many people are sheeple. On the other hand, some of those sheeple are starting to wake up just because they're feeling the pinch. So I wanted to talk a little bit about globalist agendas and the New World Order, Build Back Better, and mainly Agenda 2030, because they stated it in their, you know, their white paper on how they were going to take over the world. It's there. They were going to use one of these things called smart cities. The Globalist Agenda 2030, smart cities, smart grids. They want to get everybody rounded up out of the countryside and stuffed into a big city in a skyscraper where everyone will have a little cube about the same size. That way no one gets jealous, right? Of course, some people, you know, the elites and stuff, they'll have their own floor, you know, right? You know, the rich politicians, the Hollywood elite, the big sports class people, they'll have their own floor. So it won't be equal. It never will be equal. There is no such thing as true equality. I mean, everyone is born under different circumstances and goes through different circumstances in their life to become the man or woman that they are today, right? So there is no equality. There's no such thing. It's some fairy dust that the liberals dreamt up. You know, so they want to get everybody rounded up into the cities because they're easier to control. And they've also noticed the trend that when you live in a city, you're not independent. You're not thinking about individualism or individual rights or liberty or any of those things like that. You're thinking about your apartment, your little bitty, you know, humans are like that. We adapt. We're very adaptable. We can adapt to any sort of, you know, environment you put us in for the most part. And these people know that. They've studied psychology. They know what to do to make people come into the city and stay there. Well, these people that are totally dependent on the system are, for the most part, I mean, like 90% of them vote with the Democrats. And why is that? Well, they see the government as their daddy, right? Maybe a lot of them didn't have a daddy in their life growing up and they're looking for that replacement or something. I don't know what the deal is, but rather than going out and finding pleasure and, you know, getting the rewards from going out and doing a hard day's work and getting paid for that, they don't want that. They don't think that that's right. They think that's beneath them. And they think that it should be fine to import, you know, however many illegal aliens they need to to do the jobs that they don't want to do. And that was a lie that was sold to us under the Clinton administration. That was the first time I ever heard that they're just taking jobs Americans don't want. And at that, there was probably some truth to that. But it also becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at a certain point where maybe now some of those people might like to have those jobs, but those jobs aren't available because, some illegal alien is doing it for $2 a day or whatever. I don't know what the wages are. Much lower than any average American is going to go work for. So that's part of the problem. We've been tricking our system for years and years by bringing in this, foreign labor to pick our crops for cheap, thus keeping the food supply relatively cheap. So it's been fooling, kicking the football down the road for the inflation to hit another generation down the road, right? And well, we're that generation. That's what we're experiencing right now. Everything is exploding in price, and it's being done intentionally so that you will submit to daddy government, the system. That's what they want. They want and ultimately, they want you to submit. That's what this is all about. And what does that mean? That means turning in all your firearms. It means not being a prepper. It means having whatever smart device either in your hand or implanted in your body that they require. And at some point, it will not be an option anymore. They will just say, hey, you got to get a chip in your head, or you got to get the Neuralink or whatever that Elon Musk is working on, or you got to get this thing so we can monitor you, not only you and where you go, but your actual thoughts, because that's what they want to do. I mean, I've seen so many of these movies over the years that just look like they're coming true. It's either predictive programming or I don't know what it is, but like Gattaca comes to mind. The genetic control of all birth and life on the planet Earth. Who does what jobs? They'll assign you a job based on your genetics. I mean, Minority Report, where you don't even do anything, but the machine predicts that you're going to do a crime in the future, a pre-crime, and they come and bust you before you have a chance to do that, right? This system that they're setting up is just ripe for exploitation and abuse. That's why they're doing it. See, if you're one of the power people and you don't like somebody, you can just say, let's pull a Minority Report on that guy and say he's going to do a pre-crime, even though he never was going to do a pre-crime. They can just do it to eliminate the opposition. And we've seen a lot of that in real time here on YouTube and other social media platforms, where if you have a dissenting opinion from the mainstream media's opinion or the mainstream Democrat opinion, then you will have your channel, your video either taken down. If you do it too many times, your channel will be banned, on and on. So they have already tightened up the noose around all of our necks by controlling us through platforms like YouTube, social media, and stuff like that. So I can't really see very many places that the people that love liberty and love freedom are winning. I really don't see any. There are no victories for people that love the founding principles of the United States of America, which is very interesting and compelling because, Biden and Ketanji Brown Jackson and all these other people, Lindsey Graham, that are calling for bans on assault rifles, are overlooking the fact that they took an oath. They swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. And that means, against enemies, foreign and domestic. And that means defending it against domestic enemies that come to take away people's rights. This should be the very definition of, why these people went to Washington, was to defend this oath that they swore to uphold our government that's lasted over 250 years. So they're not doing that. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them are turning their backs on the very founding principles and ideals of this country. And they should be removed from office, but they're the way things are going, no one's tried to impeach Biden. No one's talking about getting rid of Lindsey Graham or any of these other guys, Mitt Romney or any of these other, Liz Cheney, any of these other rhinos. No one's, there might be some campaigns to run against them, but we all know the establishment is going to put their money behind Mitt Romney and Lindsey Graham and Liz Cheney because they like the destruction. How in the hell is Mitch McConnell still in office? Nancy Pelosi, another great example. How in the hell is Nancy Pelosi still in office? Unfreaking believable. So back into the story at hand here, before I go too far off on a rant. 2030 is coming. 7.5, 8 years from now, Agenda 2030 will be fully implemented. And you should go read up on it. It's not just smart cities and controlling everything about your life and controlling every aspect of your life. And also, there's a big attack on getting rid of normal capitalism. They favor a thing called stakeholder capitalism, which is not capitalism at all. Not like you and I think it is. It's totally different. It's for the ultra rich, the uber rich corporations, and the people like Klaus Schwab. They'll still keep making their billions, but people on the bottom will not ever have a chance to get there. That's what they're trying to do. These are the type of people we're dealing with here, guys. These are the globalists. They just had their meeting, Bilderberg, and right before that, it was Davos. Well, what do you think they're talking about? Do you think they're talking about ways to make things better for the lower and the middle class here in the United States and around the world? No, they're talking about control. They're talking about they're the only ones that have the answers, and they're going to have to take control of the reins and show us all how to live. And it has nothing to do with individualism or liberty or freedom or any of those things that we believe in. So things are bad, real bad, and they're getting worse day by day. Again, they're claiming $5 a gallon national average by the end of the week. It's already $7.25 out in California. So this is the destruction, the Californication of the United States of America. All being brought to you by the face of Joe Biden. It's not just Joe Biden. Barack Obama, Pelosi, all of them. Susan Rice, all of these people are behind Biden pulling the strings. He's not capable of this much destruction on his own. So when I say Biden, it's all of them behind him, all the shadow people that pull Biden's strings. Unreal times to be alive. So the next phase, after they get everyone in the city for the most part, is what they call the rewilding of the United States of America. It's this liberal scheme that they've hatched up that basically they want to take away private property ownership. They don't care about generational farms. They don't care about generational land, any of that sort of stuff. They want to make it impossible for me or anyone else to pass down my land and my equipment to my kid or my grandkids or whatever, right? They want to make it to where it's so impossible for you to pass something along through inheritance that it'll just be taxed to death and you won't be able to do it. Your kid, after you die, won't be able to afford to keep the land and the equipment. They'll have to sell off some of the land at least, whatever. That's being done intentionally. They don't like generational farmers. They don't like generational land ownership. Not anymore. See, it was fine back when the Rockefellers were building their wealth, but they got to burn that bridge behind them and rewild the United States. Oh, don't you know? It's all for your own good, because these people have figured it out, that there's too many people. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about. There's too many people in the world, they say, and they want to reduce the population by, some say, up to as high as 90% reduction, which, that's pretty substantial. There's like around 350 million people here in the United States, according to the census, and that's before all of the immigration that's taken place over the last couple of years since Biden took office. So let's just say 350 million people. Well, if you reduce that by 90%, that leaves you with about 35 million people. I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that kind of reduction? Not only in the workforce, but in just the, these are people that your friends that they're targeting, your loved ones, your kids. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they don't have plans for, limiting childbirth, saying, oh, well, you're only allowed to have one kid, and that's only if you're, have the right kind of genetics and things like that. Again, back to Gattaca. People that are deemed unfit or, imbeciles or whatever, idiots, they just won't be allowed to have kids in this new future. It's just, they're taking things that are the most basic things that people love, right? Your kids, your family, your friends. And they're putting them into a basket of people to destroy and get rid of. Heck, maybe I'm one of those people that they want to get rid of. I'm sure I am, because I don't like their system or their plan. And I'm here talking back against it. So anyhow, they want to rewild the United States of America. And it's all being done again in the name of globalism, population control, climate change, you know, all these things that they say they have figured out. When in reality, every single time they have made a prediction, like I remember back in the 70s, seeing Leonard Nimoy, Spock, on a PBS special talking about the ice age that was coming, the coming ice age. That was going to be our big problem. And then other people later on said, oh no, it's going to be global warming. The oceans are all going to rise. And then those same people went out and bought beachfront property right after saying that sort of stuff. Is that a coincidence? Do they not care? Do they not believe what they really said? I think that's more likely the truth. They're only saying these things to scare people, to use fear. We saw all sorts of tactics come out during the COVID. I mean, the fear was off the charts during the COVID. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Unbelievable fear campaign that they used on that. And 80-90% of that stuff that they said was false. So I guess the question is, how many times do these people get to be wrong and still get to be in charge of everything? Still get to deem themselves the ones that have all of the knowledge to help, you know, solve all of the world's problems. And all of these governments around the world are going to implement this stuff, this control over you and over me and our country. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I wish people would stand up and fight back. I wish people would go and run for political office, or at very least, if they're not qualified or don't think that they can do it, they could at least pick up the phone and call their local politicians and try to take things back from a state level. Because I think that's our only hope. We can't win globally anymore. I mean, what they've done to the military is shameful. You know, I saw a thing the other day. The Marine Corps has Rainbow Pride bullets for Pride Month. I mean, at what point do we draw the line, people? This stuff is out of control. And speaking of out of control, Bill Gates' genetically modified mosquitoes here are biting the hell out of me. So they're probably, you know, giving me the vaccine or whatever. Guys, we are already up shit creek. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but none of us have paddles. So we have got to figure this out. We've got to get people, the right people, in office. It's going to be paramount. Just because they've been in office for 40-something years doesn't mean they're qualified to stay in office. Those are the worst kinds of people, these career politicians. It was never designed to have career politicians staying and working in Washington, D.C. year-round, making law after law after law after law. You know, at a certain point, even if you didn't do anything wrong, everyone in the United States is guilty of something, because they have created so many laws that it's so voluminous that no one understands it anymore. That's why the Constitution works, is because it was simple. It was made for the average common person to understand. You should go read it and go learn about your rights if you want to try to preserve them. Otherwise, go back to sleep, whatever, you know, pretend nothing's going to happen. Keep on paying the higher and higher gas prices. I mean, the way things are going, guys, do you think maybe in a year from now we could be seeing $10 a gallon gas? I think it's highly, highly likely. Not only possible, but likely. If we don't get the brakes on this thing and figure out a way to stop everything. I want Joe Biden to fail. I want Barack Obama's policies to fail. Because anyone that tells the American people that under his plan, your energy prices will necessarily skyrocket, in my opinion, doesn't get the essence of America, doesn't get what the American dream even is. If you make it so freaking expensive that people can't even have the American dream, having their own land, sitting out here talking on camera to you guys freely, you know, and not being censored. I wish I had more answers. All I can tell you to do is prepare. The globalist, the New World Order is coming for everything. Everything. Your family, your land, maybe even your life. But that's only if you put up with it, only if you tolerate it. I'm not giving up my land, I know that, or my guns. Long live the Constitution, long live the Republic. I stand for liberty. I hope you do too. I hope you'll join me. Fight back against this tyranny, because that's what this is. At the end of the day, the globalist New World Order is going to be a tyranny, a tyrant taking over. Maybe it'll be multiple tyrants, but they're taking over the world. Stop it while you can.